Hi, everybody. This is Andy Bauer. I'm the coordinator of the Connecticut Energy Network. If you're watching this, it's a recap of the Tuesday, February 10th presentation that we did. Um, so the Connecticut Energy Network is a collection of local energy task forces or commissions across Connecticut. We are all volunteers. We have done in our various towns solarized campaigns, home energy solutions campaigns, heat pump campaigns, basically things that save money. We support the public benefits charge because it supports those programs, which in turn means better air quality, fewer greenhouse gases, improved public health, jobs, and economic boosts, just to name a few. We did this webinar because the public benefits have been inappropriately scapegoated as the reasons our bills exploded last summer. There's a lot of bills to do away with them or impede them. We feel the reality of what actually happened last summer has been badly misunderstood or ignored, which is worse. So let's take a look at that reality. All right, so this graph represents the amount of electricity that we would normally use. That's the red line. Uh, on an average bill, it's 700 kilowatt hours per month, roughly around $200. So the increase from the public benefits is about this much. It's not really all that much at all. We called it a bump. And all these things happen at once, but we had to start paying off the Millstone deal to Dominion. So that jumped up your bill even more. It was the largest single bill increase that happened in July, not the public benefits, but Millstone. But more importantly, it was summer, it was hot, and air conditioning caused some of us to use a lot more juice. In some cases, double or more. But you have to know this increase dwarfed the first two, and that's the prime driver of the spike. All right, quick utility bill just orientation. The first is supply, the second is transmission, the third is local delivery. The fourth one is the public benefits. And this isn't spelled out on your bill, but the public benefits charge is divided into two sections. There's the federally mandated congestion charge. Briefly, that's the cost of fixing an overburdened grid. This is the jump from last summer, an extra charge to prop up nuclear power. It was the largest single component, as I mentioned. More on that later. The other section is combined public benefits charge, which has three separate charge, and this is where the good stuff is. The system benefits include money-saving conservation programs, guarantees to have your power on through the cold winter months, and the low-income discount rate for electricity. These are a huge help for our vulnerable neighbors. This is the bump from last summer, the smallest increase. Conservation and load management is where you'll find money-saving energy efficiency programs along with demand response to guard against grid stress and power outages. Renewable energy investment, the Green Bank attracts $7 of private sector investment for every $1 of public seed money. Put them all together and you're looking at tens of thousands of jobs connected to hundreds of businesses and a significant boost to our state's economy. There's been a year-long cry for bill relief. These three charges are where that relief is being delivered. Now, public benefits is the component that is programs ultimately determined by the legislative and executive branches of our state government, which typically relies on technical expertise from the Office of Consumer Counsel, Office of Legislative Research, PURA, Department of Environmental and Energy Protection, the Connecticut Green Bank, utilities, and others for the development of programs or their day-to-day management, or both. As noted, this process funds and sets programs using the system benefits charge, conservation and load management, and renewable energy charges. The proceedings are conducted by one or more of the aforementioned organizations that have appropriate technical expertise, are posted well in advance, and have multiple opportunities for input from all stakeholders. So the folks in these departments are trained to do this. Despite that, there's a suggestion that the public benefits be funded not from electric bill surcharges, but as a tax through the Connecticut General Assembly's budget process. First, reducing one's electric bill and then increasing their tax bill, not sure how that saves money. Besides, let's pay for electric system stuff with an electric bill charge. Otherwise, you're paying for electric system stuff when you go into a hardware store, play golf, or buy a pack of gum. Second, our state budget has a cap. Move the public benefits charges into the budget and something has to go. Funding for snow removal, police, state parks, public works, education. Third, legislative hearings are vital for receiving public input and debating policy. You have to have this. However, our General Assembly is a part-time legislature. They have a lot on their plate, and they'd be hard-pressed to give this involved process the attention it deserves. They'd have to match the technical acumen and countless hours put in by our current offices and departments. Last, our current reliable proceedings give those businesses in the energy community a degree of certainty. The players know what's expected. We're witnessing at the federal level the ill effect that unexpected governmental decrees are having on business plans across the country. Let's please not do that in Connecticut. Unfortunately, some in the General Assembly are making the critical misstep and not acknowledging the main cause of last summer's skyrocketing bills. Record-setting heat and humidity contributed to major storm damage in Oxford, Seymour, and across Connecticut. It's no longer a question of if there's a climate change connection to this havoc, but how much. This is not something we can win through inaction. Anyway, it was hot and humid. We cranked the AC, our usage skyrocketed, and our bills blew up. I want to unpack the bills for comparison purpose, but a quick heads up, I'm just using one utilities bill, Eversource's, to show the component proportions. That was done to save some time. UI's bills roughly track with Eversource's. Any inaccuracies in graphics or bar graphs are mine. Apologies in advance. Putting last summer's high temps aside, starting with supply, here's a mock-up of two bills. One from last spring, one from July. Supply tends to drop in price in the summer, and it's always the most expensive part of your bill. There's the percentage of transmission, distribution, and public benefits. A small part of the public benefits rise was due to the delayed collection of hardship costs. Most of it was the Millstone Deal, which required us to send more money to Dominion. People were understandably upset, and some got fooled into focusing that frustration on the part of the bill that increased the least, the part that directly helps the most vulnerable. If you saw my teaser video, I referenced Ebenezer Scrooge's epiphany when he realized that he can help Tiny Tim. Similarly, the system benefits helps people get back on their feet by preventing shutoffs, conservation programs, Operation Fuel, matching payment programs, home heating, customer service associated with a low-income discount rate. Spread that word around, as there are people who could use it. Seniors come to mind, but if these programs go dark, it's not just seniors who would be in tough shape. Thank you to legislators who are working to safeguard them. For those who want to see them eliminated, a little exercise for you. When you pull into your driveway, get out of your car, just wait for the chill to make itself known and then imagine what it's like to not have a nice warm house a few steps away. Here are some things people should know about how these costs are working. First, hardship costs had piled up for 2 years before landing on July bills, so as time goes on, that will start to ease. Second, as folks get back on their feet, there's a process for repayment. According to Pura, one common misconception is that the unpaid debts from the COVID moratorium were forgiven, but they were not. These customers still owe their uncollected moratorium costs, and as customers pay their debts, there will be a credit against the system benefits charge in future cycles. Third, the legislature overwhelmingly approved the bill establishing the discount rate. It's a good move because before the discount rate was created, it was either pay all the bill or, like an empty glass, none of it. Now folks who qualify for the 50% discount rate will pay half, if they qualify for the 10% discount, they'll be paying almost all, but they'll be saving something. It's based on income, which is fair, and it's worth maintaining. Next up is the conservation and load management charge. This charge supports energy efficiency programs, which we'll check out first. It also funds critical demand response programs, which we'll get to after that. But check out these numbers. And in each of the past 2 years, the Energy Efficiency Board programs averaged 24 million in equivalent energy savings through residential energy solutions, 42,000 homes weatherized, 14,000 upgrades to existing multifamily homes, almost 30,000 heating and cooling systems installed. Oops, skipped one. Low income, 6,400 low income households served. Now 30,000 heating and cooling systems. 3,300 hot water systems installed, almost 80,000 non-lighting energy efficient products sold, 575 single-family energy efficient homes built, over 1,000 energy efficient multifamily units built, and none of this shows the savings from commercial and industrial programs, but they're similar. All of this drives down your bill, and we could use more of it. The load management part of the charge is also referred to as demand response and is critical for avoiding grid stress and, more significantly, power outages. Two demand response strategies are load shedding and load shifting. The series of graphics shows how they help. The bell curve represents electricity use on a hot day. The high point of the curve is called peak demand, usually happens late afternoon. And while we're happy to have the power, we could do without the dirty air, the stress on the grid, and the higher prices. Load shedding is a pre-arranged agreement to quickly stop using power when asked. The peak falls, and it's like turning off the stove before the pot boils over. Load shifting is another prearranged agreement. This moves electrical use to periods of low demand. Think of it as driving through a town at 10 in the morning rather than rush hour. Quick pause number one. If these programs are budgeted through the legislature and funds are used up, are we inviting power outages? Moving on. Please understand that the efficiency programs just reviewed and the system benefits conservation programs before that and the renewables we'll get to next are all demand responses in advance and just as valuable, if not more so. Quick pause number two. Even if you haven't used any of these programs, the result of others doing so means downward pressure on your bill. And this graphic represents that demand response originated mainly with large industrial and commercial outfits like Pratt & Whitney or Sikorsky, but it's now built into incentives for residential EV chargers and whole house batteries. That means a house or a business with a battery grid is a grid stress solution, and the batteries become a valuable dispatchable power, very helpful for high demand days. Any EV charger with a smart meter is a grid stress solution. This is the type of thinking the grid needs. We need more of it. For cost comparison purposes, we repeatedly spend hundreds of dollars each month on supply, transmission, and distribution, but only a small fraction of that on procedures like this. Last of the combined benefits, the Renewable Energy Investment Charge funds the Connecticut Green Bank. Again, some impressive results. Since 2011, just over 400 million in green bank dollars have attracted 2.47 billion in private sector dollars, resulting in 2.88 billion of total investment in the state's green economy. Let's see how that shaked out. Over 700 megawatts of renewable energy, over 60,000 families saw their energy costs drop, along with over 8,000 businesses, almost 30,000 direct or indirect job years created. The resulting economic activity generated 148 million in additional tax revenue. 7 million pounds of asthma-triggering sulfur dioxide eliminated, 8.7 million pounds of smog-causing nitrogen oxide eliminated, 11.4 million tons of planet-warming CO2 eliminated, almost 500 million of lifetime public health value created. All this drives down your bill. On a personal note, I can attest to a half a dozen instances of green bank assistance that have led the town of Portland and its residents to a collective 7 figures worth of savings. We could use more of this, not less. Finally, Millstone. To recap, in 2017, Dominion Energy owners of Millstone threatened to close if they weren't guaranteed that Connecticut would buy half the plant's power at 5 cents per kilowatt hour. This was not the most transparent piece of legislation, in my opinion. But moving on, the deal plays off the price of natural gas. When that price is high, we get a Millstone credit for overcollection. When it's low, we owe Dominion. It's bill number 1501 from that year. We have gotten credits in previous years, but this year that deal hit hard and was responsible for much of the public benefits charge increase. The additional payment ends with April's bill, which you'll pay off in May, but love it or hate it, the Millstone deal goes to 2029. We may get a credit next year. If natural gas prices dip again, we may get a repeat of this year. Okay, here's our January to June 2025 bill. It's hard to say exactly how things will shape up for the next set of costs, but keep your eye on the public benefits because even with no legislative action on Millstone and no legislative action on hardship accounts, rates will change in July. And our bill profile will take a big step towards where we were last spring. Just to be clear, we'll still get power from Millstone, but the last of the extra payments to Dominion will be done in May. The backlog of hardship accounts will have eased, and it's likely that we'll get some repayments from those accounts. Summer's heat and humidity will return, however, so remember that the programs funded here in the combined benefits section are working to drive down costs in every other section of our bill, as well as improving air quality and driving down the emissions that are driving up the heat. In closing, I'm going to paraphrase from the medical profession: do no harm. The benefits laid out here are real. They are solutions that work. Why are we arguing with success? Efforts to eliminate them threaten to harm thousands of Connecticut jobs, hundreds of businesses, millions in economic gains, air quality, the vulnerable, energy savings, the list goes on. With all the positives the benefits bring, we should be putting more resources into that direction. But because of the tone of many of the bills before the Energy and Technology Committee, I'll repeat my parting thought: do no harm.